In continuation of our Distinguished Speakers Series, Dr. Marco Cervantes, an Associate Professor of Mexican American Studies at UTSA and one of the co-founders of our Mas Teachers Academy, will conduct an interview with a Tejano music legend, Tejano music icon, who has entertained audiences around the world for over 65 years with 70 plus albums and countless shows. Jose Maria de Leon Hernandez, known to most of us as Little Joe, was born in a one-room dirt floor shack in Temple, Texas. He is a five-time Grammy Award winner, a recipient of the Texas NARS Governor's Award and the Texas State Artist of the Year, the recipient of the 2023 National Heritage Fellowship awarded by the National Endowment for the Arts. It is the United States government's highest honor in the folk and traditional arts. His biographical book entitled Little Joe, No Llores Chingon, An American Story, The Life of Little Joe, has won major awards in the International Latino Book Awards category. Okay, considered one of the largest Latino cultural awards in the United States. But he is not only an entertainer, but also a political and social justice advocate. His support for the United Farm Workers has been well documented. His song Las Nubes was adopted by the farm workers as their official marching song. Little Joe's advocacy for education has been well documented. He has participated in projects, school-oriented projects such as Teach the Children, which is dedicated to providing school supplies for needy children across the state of Texas, the Burger King Academy, a school dropout prevention program, Communities in Schools program, a national dropout prevention program, Project SER, which combats illiteracy, the National Hispanic Scholarship Fund, a program providing national scholarships for needy Hispanic students. The list goes on. And so it is my pleasure and my honor to present to you Jose Maria de Leon Hernandez, known to most of us as Little Joe.
Thank you, Little Joe. It is an honor to be able to interview you. You're a hero to me, my family. We actually just saw you at the Henry Peña Super Dance last summer. So we got to share that moment, me and my family, and it was just a special time. So I thank you for your music, for your activism, and taking time to talk with us, to the Mas teachers, to the Mas community about your music, your life's work, and your activism. I mean, looking at your catalog and the variety of music, of genre that make up the art that you've put out. It's really fascinating to know about your history growing up in a Black community and being inspired by that music, but then also your own upbringing within a Mexican American family and how that influenced your career. I just think that's such an important note in history as as a whole, and of course, Chicano Mexican American Tejano music. To know that that was your history because you're such a pioneer like of the music. So I think it's just great that you're able to share that so that we have that documented.
How can I not be involved when it comes to issues of people, And I don't see it as a big deal. I just see it as a responsibility, And I think we all have a responsibility to speak on behalf of others, that can't speak for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, like, there's been Cesar Chavez marches that you've spoken at, and after you speak, I'm fired up. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm more motivated. So, your voice has a lot of energy, gives off a lot of energy, and it helps motivate you. And I know I'm not just speaking for myself. And, just with your speech, also, of course, your music. Got to talk about Las Nubes. I'm wondering if you could talk about the creation of Las Nubes, the writing, and then also the decision to re-release it on Para la Gente in 1972. So if you could talk a bit about some of the history writing the song and then releasing the song, putting it out, and what the song means to you. I know that's a lot, That song has just been so important in my life. I mean, there's so many times I've heard it, and it just, it's just one of those songs that brings a lot of people to tears. So if you can,
Yeah, it wasn't anything I planned. It was just a message. I thought it was a beautiful message. But actually, Conjunto Bernal recorded it first, and I recorded it on Sarape Records, but in a 3/4 tempo. And then in those days, you were limited time-wise because of the radio for airplay. And I think the recording is about 2 minutes and 13, 14 seconds.
Mhm.
Just get through the song, an intro, and you sing the song and it's over. But I loved the song. When I first heard it, I loved it, and I recorded it. But then that was on Sarape Records, and that would have been in the early 60s. But by the time when I got to California, I never, as I said earlier, I think I told you, it was very educational for me, just learning about Latinismo, seeing musicians from all over the world converging in the Bay Area, and it was so cool to speak Spanish. Everybody wanted to play Latin, jazz, Latin rock, speak Spanish. Carlos Santana just started out.
So cool. Wow.
And I actually met Carlos's father before I met Carlos, and he's the one that told me that he had a son. He says, "I hope you meet him someday." I'm making the story getting out a little.
Oh no, I love it. It's great.
But there's this guy, who became a compadre, and they call him a Gordo. His name was Gordo Delgado, Arnulfo Delgado, El Gordo. And I was in California, and one of those times where you're not supposed to do this, and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway." Well, we can't do the next 2, 3 shows we had because I said we won't do them. It was the first time I was in California. I'm already like bucking the system. So this man, Gordo Delgado, Arnulfo Delgado, who brought caravanas from Mexico, which I worked with a bunch later on. But he says, "Oh, I have a booking. Si gustas trabajar conmigo," I said, "Sure." I get to meet somebody, work with somebody new. And one of the times we were in San Francisco at a restaurant, and Carlos's father's playing, his mariachi player, and he's my compadre Arnulfo, El Gordo is his nickname, introduced me to Carlos's father, Jose Santana. And he said, "Mire, este señor," meaning me, "este señor es músico, cantante y guitarrista." And Carlos's father says, "Oh, sí, yo también tengo un hijo. Se llama Carlos y toca guitarra. Y ojalá que un día lo conozcas." This was before Woodstock.
Wow.
So I said, "Yeah, seguro, con gusto, one of these days, I'll meet your son, Carlos." It happened, but after Carlos became Carlos, So that all of that, it changed my attitude or outlook
Mhm.
on Chicano cultura, la cultura de Chicano, because musically and politically, it just motivated me more. And I knew that I changed the name of the group from Latin Airs to something. And my brother John and I, who had everything to do with the Latin Airs and La Familia, we thought about it and what did we call it? Then, because the family has always been part of what I've done. And it's a word so commonly used all the time, La Familia, this La Familia. And it is familia. So Little Joe and La Familia, and that's how that name came about. But Las Nubes, Jose Gallardo, a guy from Corpus that was playing with me and arranging my music. I left him I rented a house in San Jose, and we were rehearsing, putting together a music for the upcoming album, and Las Nubes was one of the songs. And I asked Jose, the arranger, would you arrange this for me? And, I sang it for him. He said, yeah. I said, I'll be back later. I went out to smoke. And because the guy came up and Joe, you gotta try this, you gotta, okay. So I was gone about an hour. I come back and okay, let's hear the arrangement. And it was a good arrangement, but it was just typical arrangement that we did here in Texas. I said, no, I had something else in mind. He says, well, what? And I said, well, and this is how it works for me. I actually make the arrangement, which I call the skeleton, but then I have people orchestrate it or add los adornos with a little background. But on Las Nubes, I wanted the mariachi sound, I wanted the Latin air on the saxophones. And in the middle, I love strings. I love the orchestra. I love the symphonies. On the strings, I didn't know the term for what I wanted. So I said with Gallardo on the piano, and I say, play it in a bolero.
Mm.
Still,
Oh, wow.
he said, halftime. And I said, yeah, halftime, like I knew. So, so he did the strings halftime. And when we came back from California, went to the studio. And that is a magical album para la gente.
Mhm.
So we recorded Las Nubes, and he used the symphony strings. He's a genius when it comes to music. He recorded the strings on Las Nubes, and then Johnny and I do one recording, one cut of Las Nubes, and that sounds good. Yeah, do another one. Take a second take. We do the same thing, and he says, "Well, which one do you want?" I say, well, they're both good. Put them together. And that's just a gut feeling. I didn't plan that stuff. And I said, yeah, that's what we'll do. He said, you can't use both. I said, why not? It's been a blessing not knowing music formally. I'll do what I feel.
Yeah.
And so it gave it that, and what's called angelical.
Mm.
The stick in the voices. But that wasn't a planned thing. It just happened right there because I like what I heard.
Yeah.
And the guy said, well, you can. Yeah, you can. Just watch.
Oh.
But I never thought that, since 1972, that the song would just get more popular every day. Conjuntos, mariachis, school bands of middle schools, high schools, universities of our Fifth Army. All these groups played Las Nubes. And I remember I always wanted to translate it into Japanese language.
Yeah.
Because on one of the tours, I remember the guy that was driving us around, I'd hear him, and the Japanese are real laid back, I love that gente.
Mm.
I'd hear him, and that's not like what's la cultura japonesa to come out like that, or whistling Las Nubes. It was like, wow. So I'm going to translate this song, and it never happened. But in YouTube, about 4 or 5 years ago, there's this two little Japanese guys. One was playing guitar, the other one is singing Las Nubes, the English and Spanish version, and one is the guitar. Like, but
Yeah.
I that wasn't planned, and but I think something like that. I guess again, being so lucky and blessed, not every artist finds their signature piece in their lifetime, but in that particular, the magic of that, you start with the lyrics of the song, the message, then the musical arrangement of it, the feel, and that whole album, Para la Gente, the mindset I was in during that time and the energy and what I wanted to express and say, to the people through music. Uh, it just captured that. The whole album's like that, It's just full of that energy and positive, a good drive. Um, and that's also part of the title, Para la Gente, because
Mhm.
that's what I feel I've always done the music for. It's for the people. It's not for me to sit at home for, but the music I do is for the people. So, but that's the story and the history of Las Nubes, which is just amazing that it just every day gets more and more recognized.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Chicano anthem, and I love hearing you play it. Every time I've seen you, when you played, you just see the crowd's reaction, and it's just
You
everyone
all
is
sing.
yeah, like you don't even have to sing the song. Right?
Yeah.
And it's so cool to hear like some of the background with the strings, and it's because that's such a powerful moment of the song too. Whenever it hits those strings and the vocals and the idea of the message coming first. I just think that's so interesting, that that's your approach. But I mean, it makes sense. And given, like, how you stand and where you stand with the music.
Well, it began to understood why Las Nubes is accepted the way it is because as we grow older, the message uh, becomes more clear.
Mhm.
Ya todo se me acabó, starting with that. No me puedo resistir. Si voy a seguir sufriendo, mejor quisiera morir.
Mm.
I mean, that is powerful stuff. And as a kid, you may like everything else, but as you get older and you hear those words, and that's reality. And, I was already there in 72 and didn't know it, but that's where I'm at now. Si voy a seguir sufriendo, mejor quisiera morir. That is some really, really powerful stuff. So for the farm workers, whose life I understand completely because I come from there, you know, that message, voy vagando en el mundo sin saber a dónde ir. Las nubes que van pasando se paran a llovistar. I was out in the field many a time when, oh, rain, it was welcome, you cool off and go back to big cotton in 105, 110-degree weather, so las nubes come by. So all of that, I understand now as people get older, they appreciate the lyrics more so because we all get to that point
Yeah.
and in our lives.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I can say is just getting older myself, having more appreciation for the lyrics, just finding the meaning, just even that more powerful. God, just so fascinating to hear your insight on the song, your background.
I'm glad that you folks are there doing that, and I wish there was more of that. We need it. We certainly need to know who we are because I truly believe that if you know who you are, you stay grounded.
Mhm.
When you're confused and you want to be somebody you're not, uh, you're only gonna be who you are no matter what you do. So you may as well make the best of it because so many of us, and I remember the ID problems during the late 60s, 70s when La Raza, we didn't want to be who we are. And not all of us, but so many of us. And
Mhm.
you know, I've always known who I am, and I think that's kept me grounded. So nothing doesn't mean I'm proud or ashamed or
Mhm.
that's I am what I am, and that's it. And I feel it is because take me or leave me, I'm still gonna be me. So the Mexican American programs and studies are, I think, such importance.
Thank you.
People need to know who we are. People need to recognize and appreciate who we are and our contributions, which is always lacking.
Yeah, and we still struggle to grow our programs. But as you mentioned, just so important to our communities. I mean, it is the history of the place that we live in, that we, like you mentioned, the contributions and all of that history. It's just so important. So just really love that you see the importance and really appreciate your profound words. So thank you so much, little Joe.
Thank you guys. Gracias.
I think we can go ahead and end it once again. Many thanks.
Thank you, Joe, for taking time from your busy schedule. So we appreciate it.
Well, I've really enjoyed, and again, I'll repeat, I hope that it'll serve the purpose.
Thanks.
There is a
Amen.
question in the chat.
Okay.
Selena Peña says, how do you see the next generation keeping Tejano alive, and where do you think it's evolving?
Oh, each generation bring their own mix to the table. I was an oddity when I came around,
Mm.
but the groups of those times, I was not a threat to them because I was different, and my musical heroes when I was starting out is like Beto Villa, Valde Gonzalez, Isidro Lopez, Juan Colorado, Chris Sandoval, and then all the conjuntos, you know. I loved all the music, all those guys, and they were all kind to me. They were older, Tony de la Rosa. So whenever I went out of state on tours, they always left a good word on my behalf. And thinking back, that was really nice of them. But I think they did that because one, like I said, musically, I was no threat to them. I was an oddball, or something different, And but my generation came along, and as others do as well, they'll bring their own mix, and like I know we have we call anything we put a cowbell on, which is a cumbia, but but if you listen to música colombiana, and I've had the great opportunity to work with músicos colombianos, the real thing, we'll call it cumbia, the Mexican cumbia, but that sparked off something else, what we're calling cumbias. No, that's not really a cumbia, but it's something different. So, you hear all these different genres. Somebody's got to start them somewhere. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any blues, country music, or jazz. There wouldn't be any Chicano music. It starts somewhere. Now, when we say Tejano, it's like 10, 20, 30 years from now, like, that's not Tejano. Well, what is Tejano? When they ask me, what is Tejano? I say, it depends on who you ask. Because if you don't have a history of 50, 60, 70 years of what I do, it's impossible to know. And you say it's Tejano. Well, I don't call it Tejano, but if you do, that's fine with me. That's why it was important for me to talk about how I first heard that term. Was it Tejana? Because we were in Texas going to California. So there's a lot of talent with our children, with our kids. And I always, when they ask, what do you suggest or what do you advise? The parents, if it's a young talent, the parents should be involved. They should support. And that's something that was never lacking in my family for any of us. Total support, unconditional support if it came to our efforts in music, and that is a huge step to that makes a difference in one's career, And first and foremost, if you can learn music legitimately, which means learn to rewrite music from the beginning. I know how much time and work it would have saved me if what I hear in my head I could pin. But it's not even a complaint, it's just stating a fact. Pero cada quien hace lo que puede the way they can. But music will always continue to change. But there will be times when full circle. I'm hoping to be around when it gets to where the big bands come back and we'll hear the swing, the jazz, and the crooners. the old, what I heard in the 40s and 50s and 60s. But as far as música tejana, it's like, uh, who, how do you define it? Because everybody's got their own idea of what they want to play as tejano, you know. But I think one of the biggest example is that cumbia thing, you know. If that's tejano now, it wasn't 30 years ago. It wasn't heard of. Through my travels in California, working with La Sonora Santanera, Sonora Dinamita, Mike Lowry, which is his specialty was cumbias, música colombiana. So I know the difference. But who am I to say, don't call it a cumbia? Hey, call it a cumbia. Put a cowbell on it, and that's a cumbia. So I think that changes will continue, and it has to, and it's good. We have to have changes. Otherwise, man, you get little Joe, more of that. Ay, Dios mío, yeah. But music makes us happy, and people should learn to appreciate more of it. I told you I'd give a 2-minute, a 30-second question, but there's so much to explain.
And I think there's another question here.
So what do
Yeah, I think you were addressing it already, but we're going to be showing this to an audience of teachers who teach Mexican American studies. So thank you for your palabra, because there, as you were speaking, I thought about so many different lesson plans that you could talk about with the farm workers, there's just so much to teach tied to your individual history and tied to music as a whole. So my question was, do you have a message for teachers and students in Mexican American Studies classes about the importance of music to our cultura and to our identity as a people?
Well, first of all, the teaching profession to me is one of the most noble acts of, you know, and just to teach, it takes so much patience, you know. I could never be a teacher because, one, I don't have the patience, and then it takes learning to pass that information on to your students. But I'm real close friends to the superintendent of the year here in Temple, Dr. Bobby Ott, and he's real close to my kid, to the principal. And just yesterday, he texted me and showed me. He continuously updates me on what he's doing, and he texts me pictures of immigrant children and families. They're working on getting their bilingual studies for these children. And that just touched me so deep, you know, because we need that, not just for the immigrant kids, but I tell my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, look, it's important to know Spanish because you're going to need it. We all need to be bilingual in this country because economically, it's all impacts us, you know. For teachers that can teach that, the Mexican American experience and the languages is so important. And the way I think is like after a hard day of teaching, if you appreciate and enjoy music, is sit back and relax and the music of your choice. But if you like Latin music, whatever genre it is, but if you do a little research, I'll bring Nat King Cole up again. He recorded in 4 different languages, you know, and here's this beautiful Black artist singing in Spanish, you know, in Italian. So music does a lot more. It's also a teaching tool, you know. So I appreciate, or you know, I praise teachers, all teachers, but especially you guys that are Mexican American studies teaching, you know, or in cultura, and using music in some cases, or enjoying it to help with your tarea, you know. I think that's just great. We should remember that history belongs to he who writes it, you know. And how are we gonna keep our history about Cesar Chavez when they're trying to just delete his name? And you know, when are we gonna learn more about who we are when they don't want us in the books, you know?
Exactly.
And this is the importance of what you teach, you know. It's who we are. We should know who we are, for better or worse or whatever, but that's who we are. And once you find out, you start looking into yourself and your cultura, who you are. We all have different characters. We all have, you know, tenemos some bloodline or heritage, or, you know. And the more we know about ourselves, the better we can conduct and do for ourselves. So it's very important. It's super important. It helps, and you know, more so than ever. Ahorita como están las cosas, the way governments work, and you know, Fort Hood, I was so proud. Fort Cavazos,
Exactly.
and then sons of guns are taking the name off, you know. Shouldn't that piss us off? Shouldn't that want to do something about it? Say something about it? I mean, where's our leaders? Where's our, you know, where's our coraje about that? The Cesar Chavez, the ship named after him, they want to do away with that. If they haven't, they're working on it.
Yeah.
Those are heroes.
Yeah.
Who's standing up and saying, yeah, you can't do that, or don't do that, or, you know, early on in the conversation, yes, is it important for me? It's one little voice, but it's one little voice. And Freddie Fender would say, un poquito is better than nothing.
Mm.
You know, so we should have some rage, you know. Stop doing this to us. Where's our leaders that need to stand up and, you know, I guess my grandfather came from La Revolución. He was La Revolución, my mom's dad, Coronel José María de León. I guess a little bit of that is in me. I'm José María de León Hernández. And if somebody will follow me, or I'll follow somebody, start a little revolution, algo, you know, about the books, about what you guys are teaching. Before you know it, they're gonna, well, Mexican American studies, I remember when the Chicano studies were so popular, and I don't hear anything about them. They quit teaching, and but vamos a ver qué pasa. I hope that we have a strong generation, the next generation, that will enjoy and learn from your studies, what you're teaching, our history. And again, back to the basics, education and politics. We got to push back. We got to at least ask for things to be right. You know, whether we get them or not, at least we should ask, demand, you know. So I'm exposing myself to the questions that you asked earlier. I'm really happy and honored to do this, because it's important for me too. Very, very important for me to share this, you know, so pass it on.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it will be passed on. So have a good evening. Bye.
Gracias.